Most human beings spend their entire lives living as unwitting puppets, seamlessly directed and controlled by the unseen strings of their own unrefined emotions. They react to every insult, collapse under every threat, and hand total control of their minds over to anyone clever enough to push their buttons. If you cannot master what happens inside your own head, you will spend your entire existence being orchestrated by someone else's hidden agenda. Before we unlock these 7 dangerous stages of deep psychological dominance, smash the subscribe button right now to fortify your mind against mental warfare. Comment the word mastery down below to declare your place among the few who rule themselves rather than the masses who exist only to be ruled. Level 1. Trigger isolation. The average person experiences an emotional charge and immediately allows it to translate into a visible physical reaction or an impulsive verbal outbreak. When an adversary insults you, disrespects you, or attempts to provoke you, they are launching a calculated probe designed to test your internal stability. They are hunting for a weakness, searching for a nerve, and waiting for you to validate their control by handing them the exact reaction they desire. Level 1 begins when you detach yourself entirely from the instinctual impulse to react, creating a cold, microscopic pause between stimulus and response. In that single second of absolute stillness, you strip the attacker of their momentum and refuse to let their words penetrate your inner perimeter. You do not absorb the threat. Instead, you step outside of yourself and examine the trigger from a distance, analyzing why the attacker chose that specific vector. You ask yourself what outcome they are hoping to provoke, what insecurity they are attempting to exploit, and what tactical advantage they hope to gain. By refusing to give them the quick, explosive response they desperately desire, you instantly flip the power dynamic and leave them standing completely exposed. An attacker who receives total silence in response to a weaponized provocation is forced to confront the failure of their own psychological assault. They lose their footing, they lose their composure, and they begin to second-guess the strength of their own position while you remain untouched. This is the foundation of emotional sovereignty, realizing that a reaction is a tax you choose to pay and you owe nothing to those who test you. When you master trigger isolation, you cease to be a reactive victim and become a stone fortress that absorbs impact without leaving a single crack. Level 2. Somatic paralysis. Your physical body is a ruthless informant, constantly broadcasting your fear, anger, hesitation, and insecurity to anyone trained in the art of observation. A sudden spike in your heart rate, a subtle clenching of the jaw, a darting eye movement, or a micro flinch in your posture will betray you instantly. Long before you speak a single word, your subconscious physiological responses have already confessed your internal panic to a perceptive master manipulator. Level 2 requires you to command absolute physical stillness, manually overriding your central nervous system's instinctual fight-or-flight mechanisms. When pressure builds and the room grows tense, you consciously slow your breathing, drop your shoulders, loosen your hands, and lock your posture into place. You soften your gaze, maintain steady eye contact, and project an unnatural, immovable composure that deeply unnerves everyone in your immediate presence. When an opponent realizes their most aggressive psychological attacks cannot force even a micro-tremor out of your frame, their internal confidence breaks. They expect panic, they expect defense, they expect anger, but instead they are met with a biological wall of absolute, terrifying neutrality. Somatic paralysis forces your body to lie on behalf of your strategy, hiding every trace of doubt behind an impenetrable aesthetic of total control. You learn to regulate your own heart rate through controlled breathing, forcing your mind to follow the artificial calm you have imposed on your flesh. Even if a storm is raging beneath the surface, the outside world sees only smooth water, devoid of ripples, movement, or exploitable weaknesses. By depriving your enemy of physical feedback, You turn yourself into a black box, leaving them blind to whether their strategy is working or failing. Level 3. De-individualization. The primary reason insults, betrayals, and psychological attacks cut so deeply into the average human mind is that the fragile ego takes everything personally. When someone disrespects you, your default human condition is to assume the attack is a direct reflection of your worth, triggering defensive pride. A master of dark psychology realizes that human behavior is rarely about the victim. It is almost always a direct projection of the attacker's inner chaos. Level 3 demands that you systematically strip away your personal pride and view every human interaction as nothing more than clinical cold data. When someone attempts to degrade you, you do not feel offended, humiliated, or defensive. You simply analyze their tactics, assess their motives, and map their state. You recognize that their aggression is a confession of their own hidden fear, a desperate attempt to regain control, or a display of deep-seated inadequacy. By removing your personal ego entirely from the equation, you render yourself completely immune to psychological poison and toxic manipulation. You no longer view an attack as a wound to your identity, but as a diagnostic readout revealing the exact psychological profile of the person firing at you. Every insult becomes a piece of evidence, every betrayal becomes a clear variable, and every act of disrespect exposes a flaw in their armor. You become like a ghost in a room full of swords. People can swing at you with everything they have, but their blades pass straight through without contact. Without an ego to bruise, you cannot be baited into foolish arguments, emotional revenge, or costly conflicts designed to waste your limited energy. You stand completely detached, watching human nature reveal its ugly mechanics while you gather intelligence to use whenever you decide to strike back. Level 4. Targeted suppression. Weak minds tell you that burying your emotions is unhealthy, but strategic minds know that raw passion expressed at the wrong moment is fatal. When you're fighting for dominance, negotiating a high-stakes agreement, or navigating a hostile trap, feeling fear, anger, or pity will destroy you. Emotions distort your perception of reality, cloud your tactical foresight, and force you to make short-sighted decisions based on immediate relief rather than long-term victory. Level 4 is the deliberate, calculated locking away of soft human feelings behind an iron vault until your objective is fully and irrevocably secured. You do not deny that the emotion exists inside you. You simply deny it permission to influence your choices, alter your speech, or shape your present reality. You acknowledge the anger or the fear, file it away into a mental compartment, and seal the door shut until the battle has been completely won. While others are driven by pride, revenge, or desperate panic, you become a cold, calculating machine that operates strictly on logic and ruthless tactical execution. You assess probabilities, evaluate risk vectors, and execute steps with surgical precision, unburdened by the chaos of human sentimentality. Targeted suppression allows you to stand in the eye of a chaotic hurricane, making lethal, objective decisions, while everyone around you disintegrates into emotional ruin. Once the danger has passed and the objective is locked down, you can choose to process those suppressed feelings in private, on your own terms. But in the heat of tactical engagement, your mind remains sterile, sharp, and focused entirely on absolute victory over those who sought to break you. Level 5. Emotional fabrication. Once you have mastered the complete internal control of your genuine feelings, you earn the dangerous ability to weaponize external emotional displays against others. The most lethal manipulators in any environment are not those who remain completely cold and emotionless at all times, but those who fake whatever emotion the target expects. Humans rely heavily on emotional feedback to navigate social structures, and when you master artificial displays, you gain total sway over their expectations. Level 5 allows you to project synthetic warmth, artificial vulnerability, carefully simulated panic, or terrifying anger entirely on demand to alter human behavior. You can shed a strategic tear to gain unearned trust, play the helpless victim to lower an opponent's guard, or feign deep offense to manufacture artificial guilt. If a situation calls for intimidation, you can simulate unhinged, dangerous rage with pinpoint precision, forcing a stubborn adversary to back down out of fear. Behind the carefully engineered mask you wear, your mind remains entirely vacant, calm and detached, watching the target swallow the bait in real time. You measure their reactions to your performance, adjusting your tone, body language, and facial expressions until they walk willingly into your strategic framework. People will believe they are reading your authentic soul, completely unaware that every twitch of your face and tremble in your voice is a calculated maneuver. To weaponize emotion, you must view human feelings as an actor views a prop list. Tools to be pulled from a shelf, displayed for effect, and discarded the moment they serve their purpose. Level 6. Strategic apathy manipulators thrive on chaos, feed on emotional engagement, and routinely use dramatic provocations to drag you down onto their chaotic playing field. If you argue with an irrational person, defend yourself against a covert narcissist, or exchange insults with a provocateur, you have already lost the engagement. By offering a response, you hand them your valuable time, your focus, and your energy, granting them the precise psychological validation they were hunting for. Level 6 is the lethal application of total unwavering apathy, the absolute refusal to invest a single drop of your mental energy into their manufactured games. You do not fight back, you do not explain yourself, you do not react with anger, and you certainly do not offer them the satisfaction of a defense. You become a slate of cold, polished gray stone, staring directly through their antics with an empty, unbothered gaze that starves their psychological need for control. When a manipulator realizes that their most elaborate traps, cutting insults, and dramatic displays fail to cause even a minor flicker of interest in you, panic sets in. Their power relies entirely on your willingness to participate in the conflict. The second you step off the board, their whole strategy collapses into emptiness. Strategic apathy is not a sign of surrender. It is the ultimate expression of dominance, signaling that the offender is too insignificant to warrant a reaction. You leave them screaming into a void, exhausting their own resources, while you preserve your mental clarity for targets that actually matter to your trajectory. Level 7. Total sovereignty. At the highest tier of dark psychological mastery, you no longer need to fight to isolate triggers, force somatic control, or suppress incoming internal chaos. You have rewired your subconscious mind so thoroughly that toxic provocations, disrespect, and environmental threats fail to produce an internal negative reaction altogether. External insults fade into meaningless background noise. Betrayal feels like a simple shift in environmental variables, and sudden chaos cannot breach your mental fortress. Level 7 represents complete psychological sovereignty, a state of profound internal alignment where you exist entirely outside the sphere of external control. You possess your own mind so completely that you dictate precisely when, where, how, and if you will allow yourself to feel anything at all. You no longer view emotional control as a defensive weapon used to survive attacks. It has become your natural, default state of existence in every domain. You operate with absolute clarity, completely immune to guilt trips, social pressure, fear tactics, or seductive manipulation from those around you. While the overwhelming majority of humanity remains trapped in a perpetual cycle of emotional reactivity, you move through the world as an unshakable architect of your own destiny. You master the hidden mechanics of human nature, fully aware that while others are perpetual slaves to their feelings, you have become their absolute master. If you refuse to let society, covert manipulators, or your own chaotic instincts govern your life, hit that subscribe button right now to continue your evolution. If you've watched this far, thank you very much for your attention. See you in the next video.